Hi, I'm Jason Wood. I'm the VA loan guy. I'm part owner of American Mortgage Network, and I'm located in the San Diego area. I've been in lending since 2001. So how I got started in mortgage banking was completely by accident. I was finishing my last year of college up at the University of Nevada in Reno, and an opportunity came to one of my fraternity brothers from another friend. And this was in 2001. And they were doing pretty well at the mortgage business doing refinances. And at this time, people were refinancing out of 8% interest rates down. And so what we got introduced to was doing VA IRRRLs, which is the streamline refinance. And at that time, you could just call your title company and they'd give you a list of names and addresses and phone numbers and interest rates, and it was real simple. But my fraternity brother called me and he said, "Hey, I've been doing this for a couple of months and I'm making a lot of money and I'm crazy busy and we need help. Do you want to do this?" And like any broke college kid, yeah, it's easy making lots of money. I'm in. Where do I sign up, right? So we started working that together, and it was pretty funny because as we were getting clients and stuff, this was before e-signing and all the other things. So we had to go sit down with clients and physically sign their initial loan documents or send it to them to sign. So a lot of times we were running around the school in a shirt and tie, and the rest of our classmates were looking at us funny, but we were going from biology class out to go meet with a client. And so that's what we were doing. And eventually that office grew, and we had about, I think, 7 or 8 of us, all fraternity brothers, doing mortgages. A lot of us are still in the business now, and we've all kind of gone to separate companies and different paths, but it was really, really a lot of fun. A little Animal House-ish for the first year or so, with all of us being, 22 years old and, having some money in our pockets and being wild, crazy guys. But it was a really great time. So what I like about the VA loan niche that I branded myself into is, one, I'm an Air Force vet, and my passion and my goal my entire life was to be a career military guy. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and the movie Top Gun was my biggest inspiration. And long story short, I got nominated to all the military academies, but I couldn't get a good SAT score if my life depended on it. So I didn't end up going to the academies. I ended up going through the Nevada Air National Guard, and didn't end up as a career pilot. And this mortgage thing had kind of happened around the same time. And when my second enlistment was up with the National Guard, I just continued the mortgage business. And it took me a little while to get to the point where I actually honed in and focused on the veteran community. Part of that being where I was living at the time when I lived in Reno, there isn't a huge military presence up there. So you don't interact or see a lot of military around. So in the mortgage business, niching yourself into that specifically, at least during that time, may have been a little limiting. But I had an opportunity in 2011 to move down to San Diego, and I took the opportunity. I needed to get out of town, and I knew that I wanted to be in a bigger metropolitan type area. I visited San Diego a couple of times, loved it. So I jumped on it. And, the first 6 months of living here in a commission only occupation was really hard. I didn't know a soul. I knew one person when I moved here. So talk about really building from scratch. I was building from scratch. And my manager at the time said, "Hey, you should, you're a vet and we live in this huge veteran populated area. You should, kind of hone in on that." And I did. And I started to back then to be known more as kind of like the go-to VA guy, but I didn't have a brand or anything really behind it yet. And the branding and everything came much later. But it really kind of reignited a good conversation I had from the CEO of the very first mortgage company I worked at with my fraternity brothers at the beginning. And the owner at the time was fairly young. I mean, he was maybe in his mid 30s, and he owned a mortgage company that had many branches. Eventually it got up to about 40 branches by about 2005. So he was very successful, and we were one of his better branches. So he would come and visit. And I remember chatting with him and just asking, how did he get to that point at such a young age? And I'll never forget what he said. But he said the riches are in the niches. And so I probed a little bit and asked what that meant. And before subprime mortgages were even a thing, he was doing subprime mortgages, and he became known as the guy doing subprime mortgages. And he was really kind of the only one in his turf doing it. So he was the only game in town that people recognized anyways. And he built it to the point where he was able to take the next step and own his own company and grow that. And so that has always resonated with me. And being in the San Diego area, being a veteran, that took heart. And the reason that I love serving that military community so much is, honestly, I had actually hit a little bit of burnout in the mortgage industry. I'd been doing it for quite a while, and I was really searching for like my why, like what was my purpose? Why am I doing this? Like I wasn't real excited about 30-year fixed mortgages. That's kind of boring. But what really kept me invigorated as I put some thought into it was serving the military. And, that class of citizen does not get full exposure to the civilian benefits until oftentimes they're out of the military. And for someone who does a 20 plus year career, that's a long time before they really realize what they have at their fingertips. So as I started venturing into this niche, I also realized that a lot of the real estate agents didn't know a thing about it, and most of them were scared to death of it. So it gave me a really good platform or a podium to talk from, as far as educating not only the military members on this really great benefit, but also the real estate agents, because there's a lot of myths and a lot of unknowns on their side as well. And that really reinvigorated my passion for the business, was being able to serve that community. The military does such an amazing job at training us for the mission, training us to be good soldiers, airmen, sailors. But what they don't spend any time on, and rightfully so, is what are all the cool benefits you get by having served. And it's not really their place to teach us that stuff, because it's very mission focused. You're in the military, right? And that makes sense. But there is a huge opportunity there. And I think for anybody that's serving, they have an opportunity to retire a millionaire plus, if they play it right and leverage this cool little tool called the VA loan. And they can do it with the proper coaching and guidance. They can get out of the military and retire extremely well off, much better than their peers, or maybe other people in their family. So that really drives me in sharing the knowledge, and just the ability to really set up their future in their life is huge with the VA loan. And very few people have it. It's about 1% of the total population has access to this. Gosh, my digital mentor is actually the fraternity brother of mine that I started in the mortgage business with, him and his brother. A few years back, I realized that video was going to be something really important from a marketing and a branding perspective. And I was doing a little bit of it. Nothing great, just some stuff in front of a green screen. I started a series called Tactical Tuesdays about 4 or 5 years ago. And so every Tuesday, I would post on my social media and send out through my CRM this video I did, and it would be a topic, only a minute and a half or so long, just a nugget or two about the VA loan, and created a series around it. And that was kind of it for a while. And then my two buddies, Arjun and Neil, really took about 2.5 years ago a deep dive into the whole video thing, and really leveraging social media. And we stay in really close contact, and just started talking and seeing some of their growth and what it's done for them. It really made me double down on video, because that's where they were seeing the most lift, and what they were doing in video was what was so important. And so the piece, and I had already kind of started doing it with Tactical Tuesdays. I just hadn't really put the right emphasis or oomph behind it. But really what they are sharing, and what I try and follow them with, is it's not so much like, look at me. It's, hey, here's the secret sauce. Here's the stuff that no one else tells you, because they want to keep it close to their vest. And that's inherent in any sort of sales industry, right? Salespeople don't want to give away their tactics or their tips or the things that makes them special or makes them really good. And what they have uncovered and shared with me, and I share this with everyone I talk to about doing media and video and stuff too, is you need to show people what's behind the curtain, show them what that secret sauce and that specialty is. Number one, it will help set you apart as the expert. And number two, I think it will help you gain exposure in your industry, because the fear by sharing that is that someone's going to copy you and they're going to become bigger and better and steal your business. And the reality is there's more business out there than any one of us can handle. And the likelihood of someone copying what you do verbatim or to a point where it impacts you is so small and so slim, it's nothing to even fear. So those are really kind of my digital marketing and video marketing people who I look up to. Some good marketing tips is to stay away from the look at me, kind of the, hey, I did this, I'm number one, I got President's Club, I sold over asking. I think the kind of braggadocious type of marketing doesn't have a whole lot of influence on people. While it might make you feel good that you got a post out, which a lot of times I can tell that's just people just want to have check the box, like, yes, I posted something today. Really, the impact isn't gonna be a positive needle mover. So what I would suggest is really only lean on the, hey, look at me, look at my accomplishment stuff in an extremely rare instance, a couple times a year, maybe, when it's a big thing. Outside of that, share information, educate people on stuff that will help them, whether it's not necessarily maybe even in the industry of real estate, which we're in, maybe it has something to do with, maybe it's business, maybe it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's leadership, heck, maybe it's a hobby, maybe you're really into cooking and that's what your thing is. But whatever it is, share information and share content that is going to be consumable by people. They'll be able to use it. No one can use a piece of content that says I'm the best, right? They can't reuse that. They can't download that and put it to use anywhere. But if you told them, how to make a great investment in real estate or what pitfalls to avoid, people can tangibly use that. And who are they going to come to if they need help with it? Well, the person who shared the information, most likely. On-the-job experience that's made me especially proud was learning to quit saying yes to everything. And so what I mean by that is, especially in the mortgage business, loan officers are almost drunk with the word yes. Yes, Mr. Realtor, I'll do it in this quick a time. Yes, I can do it by then. Yes, I'll close. Yes, yes to everything. The reality is, every loan and real estate transaction is so uniquely different that being the yes man or trying to be the hero at the end can oftentimes turn around and bite you. And I think everybody makes that mistake in the mortgage business. And I certainly did a lot. And it's for good intentions, right? We're trying to provide our best foot forward, look as great as we can, and come in and be the hero at the end. But sometimes, being the person that falls on their sword and falling on it early enough in a transaction will win you more gratis than waiting till the end and going, oh shoot, I tried to fix it, but I can't. And here we are, and now we got a problem, right? And so that's one of the biggest things that I've learned in the industry on the job was, communicating everything a lot, which loan officers typically are pretty poor at doing, over the phone. I mean, I know we have great CRMs and tools and things that can spit out communication automatically, but nothing beats that human to human interaction over the phone. So it helps you develop the relationship. It helps keep transactions smoother and calmer. So jumping on the phone often, and whenever there's a concern or a speed bump or you can foresee something happening, let everybody know. It may not turn into anything bad, but in the instance that it does, you got everyone on your side now, versus not telling them in time. Now everyone's against you. And that adjustment that I made to my business has won me more business than trying to come in and save the day and be the hero that a lot of us try and do. So I would say that has been probably my biggest on the job training or learning exercise through the business. I would say on my dream vacation, I would love to, I'd love to do like a 2-week cruise of the Mediterranean. Never having been to Europe, I would love to just see a lot of sites easily. And I think a cruise is a cool way to do that because your hotel travels with you versus traveling with your luggage to a new hotel everywhere. So I think that would be a really neat thing to do. And I would love to do that and just see all the cool sites around the Mediterranean. There's so much history there, and I love history and architecture. That's something I'd really like to do. My most treasured possession are my children, Henley and James. They're just such neat little people. Henley, my daughter, is 5 and just she's a cool kid. She just has a cool personality and she is super smart. And my son, James, who's 2, is the happiest, most joyful little guy you've ever met. Such a sweetheart and very jovial, very funny. I think he's going to grow up and be quite the jokester. And outside of, my family and my children and my wife, I would say probably my most prized possession, as people would know me for, is my Toyota Supra. I have a 95 Toyota Supra, kind of like the one in the Fast and the Furious, the first Fast and the Furious. And it's my baby. It's going to the grave with me. And it's my garage queen. I would say one of the most interesting people that I met, I got to meet this 1-star Marine general a few years back. By happenstance, I got to go to this military or veteran golf tournament, and my company at the time was a big sponsor, and so I got to go play. And I ended up getting paired with this 1-star general who was basically in charge of all air command, I think in like the Southern California region. And he brought 2 of his base commanders with him. One was a base commander, I think, of a helicopter unit in Camp Pendleton, and I forget what the other one was, but he was a commander of a squadron as well. And we played golf. And so I rode in the cart with the 1-star general, and I just was picking his brain and asking him questions about his service and everything else. And being a 1-star, getting to colonel is a big deal in the military. So getting into the general ranks is quite a feat and an accomplishment. And I asked him about moving up and stuff, and just different stories that were fun. And he had shared so much cool stuff, which I won't share all the stories, but one of the stories that was pretty interesting is he was charged with a special duty, and he was in charge of kind of security, sort of, for former President Bush and former President Clinton. They were doing a humanitarian tour together, and I think it was after one of the big hurricanes. And so they're doing a humanitarian tour, and it was just cool to hear him talk about them and how they acted as just guys. He said together, politically they're enemies, but he said together they had a lot of fun. They're both super funny, a lot jokesters. They're always cracking jokes, cracking each other up all the time. And he said, what amazed him about President Bush was just his energy. He just has so much energy. And so he gave an example of that. They were making a stop at an aircraft carrier that was out to sea to visit the troops. And President Bush was so excited to see the troops. I mean, that just really gets his motor going. That as the helicopter was coming to land on the deck, they were instructed, don't get out of the helicopter till after it's been, totally landed and they've shut down the motor. And they were about 4 feet away from actually touching down on the deck. And President Bush just jumped out of the helicopter and went to go greet everybody and say hi and everything. So the general had to, per his orders and obligations, he had to jump out also and go chase him and make sure nothing happened to the guy. But it was just a really neat experience to hear, that's a pretty special duty. So if I wasn't a mortgage banker, I think what I would probably attempt, I think would be a hedge fund manager. Not because of the show Billions, even though that's a cool show. I've just always had a strong interest in the financial markets. And I have some friends who are in that industry. A friend of mine has his CFA and certified financial analyst license. And that's an incredibly difficult designation to get. But all of the stuff, when we talk about work, we get together and what they do on a daily basis and stuff like that, just intrigues me. And I granted there's, a lot of stress and it's not an easy job by any means, very difficult, but I think that's something that I would pursue had I not gotten into mortgage banking and built my brand and my career the way I have. I think that's a turn that I might have taken. So I've at the Oscars and only had a quick second to give my top 3 shout outs. I would first off would, thank God for giving me the ability to do what I do and the passion for it. My wife and my family for their continued support and hear me moan and groan about the business and dealing with my crazy schedule and sometimes the weekend work and stuff like that. And then also I would just say, our military community, thank you for serving. Thank you for doing what you do to defend this country. It's not everybody who raises their right hand and promises and swears to give their life in defense of this country. It's a select few. It's a tremendous honor. And I wouldn't be where I am without the military. And I certainly wouldn't be in the position I'm in from a business standpoint if it wasn't for their effort and continued sacrifice. So yeah, thank you to all of them.